My name is Emily Garner, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman with a family secret ugly enough to put on the front page of a tabloid. But if I've learned anything over the last year, it's that betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the person who used to braid your hair and steal your socks. Sometimes it wears your last name. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, the kind of place where front porches are sacred. Humidity is expected, and people still say yes, Mom, like it's stitched into their DNA. I work as a registered nurse at Trident Medical Center, and I've always prided myself on being grounded, dependable, and just a little too forgiving. It's a trait that worked well in my profession. Less so in my personal life. Last Christmas, Daniel, my boyfriend of 4 years, proposed to me. It happened on a crisp December afternoon, right by the Ravenel Bridge, where the water below shimmered under a rare dusting of snow. In Charleston, snow is practically folklore, so it felt like the universe itself had blessed our moment. Daniel had tears in his eyes as he got down on one knee, and even now, I can still feel the way my hands trembled when he opened the velvet box. The ring was everything I never knew I wanted: vintage, elegant, and personal. A 1.5-carat oval diamond, surrounded by a delicate halo of sapphires set in platinum. It looked like something out of my grandmother's old black and white photos. Daniel had purchased it from a jeweler in downtown Charleston called Crane & Sons after saving for nearly 2 years. He told me later that it cost him $11,000 and that he picked up weekend shifts fixing motorcycles just to make the payments. Every facet of that ring told a story. His story, our story. But stories don't always unfold the way you imagine. Enter Lana, my younger sister by 2 years, and possibly the most complicated person I've ever loved. Growing up, Lana was the star. Beautiful, impulsive, charming when she wanted to be, and nearly impossible to pin down. While I studied late into the night and held down jobs to help with bills, Lana drifted from phase to phase: photography, real estate, makeup artists relieving half-finished dreams in her wake like scattered postcards. Still, I always tried to believe in her. I told myself she was just finding her way, just misunderstood. But deep down, I always knew there was something in her that craved the spotlight, something that would rather steal warmth than make it. A few days after Daniel proposed, my parents, Gerald and Diane, invited us over for dinner. My mom made her famous lemon chicken, and the house smelled like rosemary and hope. I wore the ring proudly, unable to stop looking at it when I thought no one was watching. Everyone complimented it to everyone except Lana. She kept staring at it like she was memorizing the way it caught the light. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and something in me, some ancient part of being a sister, felt the chill. I brushed it off. I'd been brushing Lana off for most of my life. 2 days later, the ring was gone. I had taken it off before a shower, like I always did, and placed it in the little porcelain dish Daniel's mom had given me. When I stepped out of the bathroom, it was empty. At first, I thought maybe I'd moved it without thinking. I tore through my bedroom, flipped over every blanket and drawer. I got down on my knees and searched every inch of the floor. Nothing. Daniel hadn't touched it. He even helped me scour the house again, both of us crawling like detectives at a crime scene. Eventually, we just sat there in the silence, the realization settling like dust. It was gone. And that's when it hit me: Lana had been in the house that morning. She'd texted saying she forgot her phone charger and asked if she could swing by and grab it. I told her the key was still under the planter, and she'd let herself in while I was out running errands. I thought nothing of it at the time. That's what sisters do, right? When I called her to ask, my voice was light, trying not to accuse, trying to believe in her. "Hey, have you seen my ring? The engagement one?" There was a pause, then her voice turned sharp. "Why would I see it? Are you accusing me of something?" "No, you were the only one in the house today." "Well, that's not my problem, Emily. Maybe you lost it." I tried to explain, to find any middle ground, but she hung up on me. My heart broke more from her tone than from the missing ring. I called my parents next, hoping they might talk to her, help clear it up. But the moment I brought it up, I was met with that same wall I'd hit my whole life. Lana would never do something like that. My mother snapped, as if even the idea offended her. You've been working long hours, Em, my dad added gently. Maybe you misplaced it and just don't remember. It was like shouting into a void. No one wanted to believe what I already knew in my bones. I sat on the floor of my living room that night, staring at the indentation where the ring used to sit in its velvet box. The silence in the house was deafening, broken only by the low hum of the fridge. It should have been a beautiful time planning my wedding, dreaming about the future with Daniel. Instead, all I felt was hollow. Then came the call that changed everything. The next afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, one I almost ignored, but something in me told me to answer. Ms. Doc Garner, a man said. This is Elliot Crane from Crane and Sons. I believe we may have your engagement ring here. And just like that, the cracks in the truth began to show. 3 days. That's how long I wandered around in a fog, heartbroken, humiliated, and furious in ways I didn't know I could feel. I kept telling myself it was just a ring, just a thing. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. It was a symbol, and someone my sister had stolen it. What made it worse was not just the theft, but the way no one believed me. My own parents looked at me like I was being dramatic, emotional, unreasonable. Daniel tried to stay supportive, and he mostly was. But I could see the shadow over his face, the quiet unease that had crept into his features ever since the ring vanished. We were supposed to be planning a wedding, looking at venues and cake flavors. Instead, we were picking through my drawers like detectives and whispering about who might have had a key to the house. He didn't say it, but I could feel the question in his silence. What kind of family am I marrying into? I sat on our porch the morning after that third restless night, wrapped in a hoodie and clutching a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. It was one of those gray, damp Charleston mornings where the air felt heavier than your skin. I was staring at the horizon, not seeing anything at all, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Hello, my voice came out scratchy. Ms. Garner? A warm, professional voice. This is Elliot Crane, manager at Crane and Sons Fine Jewelry downtown Charleston. My heart dropped. That was where Daniel bought the ring. I sat up straight, nearly knocking over the coffee mug. Yes, that's me, I said quickly. Is something wrong? Well, he began, hesitant. Not exactly. I just wanted to reach out because someone came into the shop yesterday with a ring. A woman. She wanted to have it resized. The tag number on the inner band matched a ring your fiancé purchased from us, an oval cut diamond, platinum band, sapphire halo. I felt the air leave my lungs. That's my ring, I said, my voice thin. Who brought it in? There was a pause on the other end, a cautious breath. She didn't leave a name. Young woman, brown hair, green eyes, about 5'6". Claimed she forgot her ID when I asked for it. She left in a hurry after I told her we couldn't process without identification. I closed my eyes, my stomach twisting. That was Lana. Down to the height, the hair, even the green eyes she used to brag about when we were kids. And you're sure it was that ring? Absolutely. I double-checked the photo from the original invoice. It's the exact same piece. We only had one of that design in stock. I sat there, holding the phone like it was a lifeline. Mr. Crane, I whispered, you don't know what you just confirmed for me. He was kind, said he was sorry, asked if I needed any help moving forward. I thanked him, barely able to speak, and hung up. Then I sat there in silence. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't misplaced the ring. I hadn't imagined Lana's weird energy that night. She took it. My own sister stole my engagement ring and tried to make it her own. Relief washed over me first, sharp and immediate. But then came the deeper ache betrayal. Not just from Lana, but from the people who were supposed to believe me. People who had dismissed me, told me to calm down or let it go. I called Daniel next. He picked up on the first ring. Hey, any luck? It was her, I said, cutting him off. The jeweler just called. Lana brought the ring in. She tried to have it resized. Silence for a beat. Then, softly, Jesus. She didn't even try to lie well. Said she forgot her ID and ran off. Daniel exhaled slowly. Are you okay? No, I admitted, but I'm not going to sit here and let this slide. Not this time. He didn't say I told you so. He just said, I'm with you. Whatever you decide to do. And that's when I knew I needed to call my parents. The phone rang 4 times before my mother answered. Emily, hi, how are you? I didn't waste time. Lana took the ring. What? The jeweler called me. She brought it in to get resized. Same ring, same band, everything. It's all on record. There was a long silence on the other end. Then she sighed. Emily, maybe she just wanted to try it on. You two have always shared clothes. Jewelry maybe she wasn't thinking. She wasn't borrowing it. Mom. She took it. Lied about it. Tried to make it hers. My dad must have picked up the other line. You sure the jeweler didn't get it wrong? Couldn't it have been someone else, please? I said, my voice rising. Stop making excuses for her. For once in your life, just say it. Lana stole something that wasn't hers. There was nothing but static and silence after that. I knew what they were thinking. I'd upset the balance. They were comfortable pretending Lana was a little reckless, a little dramatic, but not malicious, not dishonest. They said they'd talk to her. I knew exactly what that meant. My mother would speak to her like a fragile child. My father would avoid eye contact. And in the end, Lana would cry and spin a story about how I misunderstood everything. And they'd believe her. But not this time. The next morning, I went to the Charleston Police Department and filed a report for theft. I gave them the ring's description, the contact information for Crane and Sons, and the full timeline of what happened. The officer I spoke to, a sharp woman named Detective Rachel Moore, listened carefully, took notes, and didn't once ask me if I was sure. This isn't about revenge, I told her. I just want it on record. I want her to know she can't do this anymore. She nodded. You did the right thing. It felt strange to hear that. Like someone had finally validated something I'd known all along. I walked out of that station feeling steadier than I had in weeks. But what I wasn't prepared for, what I never saw coming, was how Lana would react when she realized I wasn't bluffing. That this time, I wasn't the sister who stayed silent. This time, I was done being the one who cleaned up the mess. The moment I handed in that police report, something shifted inside me. It was more than anger, more than hurt. It was resolve, this sharp, unfamiliar kind of strength that I didn't realize had been simmering for years beneath all the people-pleasing and keeping the peace. For the first time, I wasn't trying to explain, defend, or justify myself. I was simply done. I didn't tell my parents right away. I knew how it would go. My mother would cry and say I was tearing the family apart. My father would get quiet and avoid eye contact. They would both remind me of how much Lana had been through, as if that excused everything. I wasn't ready for that yet. Not until I had something real in place. But Charleston is a small town, and word travels faster than an afternoon thunderstorm. Less than 24 hours later, my sister was on my front porch, hammering the door with a force I hadn't heard since we were teenagers fighting over closet space. I opened the door, and there she was, no mascara, no Instagram-ready face, just flushed cheeks and fury pouring out of her like steam from a cracked pipe. She clutched a tiny pink clutch in her right hand, the one I gave her 2 years ago for her birthday, the one she pretended she never liked. Are you out of your damn mind? She spat, stepping inside before I could stop her. I didn't move, didn't invite her in, didn't speak. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't try to make it easier for her to lie. You filed a police report? She snapped, her voice shaking. Do you have any idea what that means for me? Yes, I said calmly. It means maybe you'll finally face what you did. She scoffed, laughed almost a cruel, bitter sound that reminded me of all the times she'd mocked me for taking life too seriously. It was just a ring, Emily. You always overreact. You always turn everything into a disaster. No, I said, my voice low but firm. It wasn't just a ring. It was my engagement ring. A ring Daniel worked 2 years to buy. And you didn't borrow it? You stole it. Then you walked into a jeweler and tried to pass it off like it was yours. There was a flicker in her eyes, something like fear. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to spin a story. Instead, she said, "You think you're better than me because some guy gave you a rock and a promise?" I stared at her for a long moment. No, I think I deserve better than to be stolen from by my own sister. That's when she said the thing that shattered whatever thread was left between us. Mom and Dad will never believe you. They never have. She didn't say it to be honest. She said it to hurt me, and it worked for a second. Because it was true. They never had. I didn't respond. I just nodded slowly and said, "Get out." She stood there, blinking like I'd slapped her. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything or cry. I just stared at her like she was a stranger, and maybe she always had been. She slammed the door so hard on her way out that one of the pictures on the wall tilted sideways. I left it that way for the rest of the week. The next day, I got a call from Detective Rachel Moore, the officer handling my case. Her voice was professional, but not cold. She had reviewed the security footage from Crane and Sons, verified the ring's unique identification tag, and pulled their in-store notes from the day Lana had walked in. "It's a match," she said. "The jeweler confirmed your sister fits the description, and we have her on camera." She didn't give a name, but her face is clearly visible. "We've got enough to bring her in for questioning." "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm sure, but I need you to be, too. Are you prepared to move forward?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. It was the first time I'd chosen myself so clearly. Later that week, Lana was formally questioned. No handcuffs, no mugshot, no courtroom drama. This wasn't Law and Order. But for someone like her, whose whole identity was built on charm and smoke, it was enough. Enough to scare her. Enough to rattle her into realizing that this time, there was no story she could sell. No tears she could cry that would undo the facts. Eventually, she confessed. Not directly to me, of course. That would have required something she'd never had accountability. But through the detective, through her lawyer, through her tears during the statement, she admitted it. Yes, she took the ring. Yes, she tried to pass it off as hers. What I didn't expect was what came next. My parents called that night. Not to check on me, not to apologize. They called to beg me not to press charges. "You don't understand what this will do to her," my mother said, voice trembling. "She could lose her job. She could be branded a criminal. She's already been a criminal." I said quietly, "She stole from me. Lied. Gaslight me. And you're asking me to pretend it didn't happen?" My father tried to step in, the peacemaker. "We raised you better than this. Family forgives." I felt a sharp laugh rise in my throat, but it never escaped. "Then maybe you should forgive her. But don't expect me to pretend nothing happened." For once, they had no response. I think that silence was louder than all the years of excuses they'd made for her. Daniel was there through all of it. He never pushed me, never questioned my decisions. He just held my hand when I felt shaky and stood behind me when I couldn't stand alone. One night, while we were curled up on the couch, Thai food between us, and the Office reruns playing in the background, he looked at me and said, "I'm proud of you." I blinked. "For what?" "For not backing down," he said. "For not shrinking yourself to keep the peace. I know how hard that is for you." That moment those words broke something open in me. Not in a painful way. In the way healing does. When you realize how many pieces of yourself you've been hiding just to make other people comfortable. I cried into his chest that night. But it wasn't sadness. It was release. Because after all the noise, the lies, the guilt tripping, and manipulation, I was finally free. And Lana? Well, she was finally facing herself. The months that followed weren't easy, but they were mine. Quiet, sometimes lonely, sometimes filled with ache, but also filled with truth. That mattered more than anything. After the formal questioning and written statement, the court settled on what they called a deferred charge. No jail time for Lana. First time, non-violent offense. All the right legal boxes were ticked, and the final decision landed somewhere between a warning and a slap on the wrist. I didn't object. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because I didn't want to waste any more of my energy chasing punishment. I wasn't interested in revenge. I was interested in healing. The court required Lana to return the ring and pay $1,250 in restitution to cover the jeweler's handling costs and the legal process. The check arrived in a plain white envelope with no note, no apology, no explanation. I almost threw it away, but Daniel stopped me. "Take it," he said. "Not for the money. For the message it's over." He was right. It wasn't about the amount. It was about what it meant. For the first time in our lives, Lana couldn't lie her way out of what she'd done. The evidence was too clear. Our world finally saw her for who she really was. And in some twisted way, I think she hated me for that more than anything else. Not for reporting her, not for ruining her life, but for holding up a mirror and refusing to look away. 2 weeks after the court's decision, she left Charleston. She didn't tell me. I found out through a mutual friend who used to work with her at a boutique downtown. She moved to Greenville. The friend said, "Word is she's trying to start over, doing freelance makeup work and hairstyling for local events." I didn't respond. What was there to say? Lana was always good at moving on without looking back. She hasn't spoken to me since. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't miss her. That realization stung more than I expected. There's something about admitting you don't miss your own sibling that feels wrong, unnatural, like defying a law of emotional gravity. But truthfully, there was nothing left to miss. Our relationship had been crumbling for years. The ring incident didn't break us. It just showed me how far apart we already were. My parents never apologized, at least not directly. No one said, "We were wrong to doubt you," or "We should have protected you." But something shifted between us. A quiet change in their tone. A new kind of respect, maybe. Or just caution. My mom started calling every Sunday. She always starts with the same hesitant question. "How are you and Daniel doing?" Her voice is light, careful, as if she's still walking on a tightrope between her two daughters, even though one of them know. Longer speaks to the other. "We're doing great." I always answer, "Because we are." Daniel and I got married last fall. It was a crisp October afternoon in Asheville, North Carolina, surrounded by golden leaves, wildflowers, and the clean mountain air. We chose a vineyard just outside the city, the kind of place where you can see the sun melt behind the hills in slow motion. The ceremony was simple, just 60 guests. Mostly friends and a few relatives who understood boundaries. I didn't invite Lana. My parents came. They didn't say her name. I didn't bring it up either. We all just moved quietly through the day, like ghosts walking beside the version of our family that used to exist. But when I looked at Daniel when he held my hand at the altar, when he wiped a tear from my cheek during our vows, I felt whole. Not patched, not surviving, whole. The ring, my ring, had been professionally cleaned and repaired. It sparkled again, not just with light, but with meaning. The same ring that once sat like a weight in my chest now felt like it belonged, a symbol not of loss, but of resilience. I caught my mother glancing at it during the reception, but she said nothing. I don't think she needed to. This spring, Daniel and I bought a house in Wilmington, North Carolina. A charming 2-story colonial with white shutters and a bright blue front door that I painted myself one sunny Saturday afternoon. It cost us $412,000, which felt impossible at first, but we made it work. every inch of it feels like ours, from the creaky wood floors to the garden out back. That I've slowly been coaxing into life. Some mornings, I sit on the front porch with a mug of coffee and listen to the breeze rustle through the trees. It's quiet here, in a way that allows you to breathe. Sometimes Daniel joins me before work. Sometimes I sit alone, thinking about where I've been, who I used to be. Every now and then, I glance at my ring. There's still a flicker of memory, a sharp edge that reminds me of everything that happened. But it's not pain anymore. It's just a scar, proof that I survived. Proof that I stood up for myself when no one else would. And I think that's the hardest part to admit. For years, I was waiting for my family to see me, to choose me. But what I've realized is that sometimes the healing doesn't come from being believed or supported. It comes from finally choosing yourself, choosing peace, even if it means losing people you once thought you couldn't live without. I don't hate Lana. I don't wish her harm. I just don't have room for her in the life I'm building. Not anymore. Not after everything. This isn't a story about a stolen ring. Not really. It's a story about realizing that no one, not even family, has the right to take what's sacred to you. Your joy, your boundaries, your peace. And for the first time in a long time, I finally have all three.